All right, everybody. This is the How to Hunt Deer podcast. Sorry, we're coming a little late this week. We had some family issues that that my side of the podcast was going through. Luckily, everything came out okay. We had a kind of a butt pucker moment with our family and did a little praying. And thanks to a little praying and a lot of great doctors and a lot of the fact that my wife is in really good shape physically had a lot to do with the outcome of this. And now my wife is out of the ICU and she's back home. There's a long story there that I just don't have the energy to get into today. And so that's all I want to say about that. We're back here on the podcast. And Jason, dude, how you doing?
I'm doing all right, middle of the week, so we're kind of past that Monday rush and everything.
Right.
I tell you what, between having kids and then bonus kids and then having another kid on the way, I got enough there. But
Yeah.
to be substituting like I have been, I'll be honest with you, man, it's been a little crazy with some of these preschoolers that I've been dealing with, because most of the last couple months I've been in a preschool, and there's 3, 4, and 5-year-olds in it. And most of this preschool is state funded and special needs. And if there's 15 kids in the class, I would say that at least 10 of them are probably on their way to having some sort of diagnosis, if they already don't, of something. It's scary, and
Like
and it
autism or ADHD or
yep.
what?
Yep, those are very, very common with all of these kids. It is hard to not put a name with or a diagnosis with a kid right now. And I question myself. I wonder, was it like that when we were growing up? Was it always like, hey, you have anxiety, I have anxiety, but do we need to put what sort of anxiety that is? Or you're ADD, I'm ADHD, or, so on and so forth, just because we got extra energy? Is there always got to be a label with it? I don't know, it's weird, and so just talking to teachers, and every single one of them, whether it's a teacher or an aide or whatever it may be, they all say the same thing, like it just progressively gets worse. And that part's scary for our kids.
Yeah. Dude, I don't know, man. There's a whole bunch of opinions that I have. I'm dealing with something similar to that with my oldest boy, not being able to focus in class. I don't know how I want to say this, but like, because my kid doesn't fit in the current environment, they want to change my kid with medication. Does that
Right,
make sense?
right,
And
right.
yes, he's high energy. Yes, he can't focus, but he's 10, dude. Like, I can remember sitting in a classroom and hating every minute of it when I was a kid. I just wanted to be outside playing or fishing or
Right.
riding bikes or something like that. And now you take all this energy and you're trying to sit them down in a classroom for that.
Yeah.
I don't understand, like, how they can have one method of teaching that is supposed to encompass all people,
Right.
right? That's just like even a law or a rule of some sort. It's like this law is for all people.
Hmm.
But if you don't fit into that, then you're an outcast or something like that. And it's frustrating to me because the teachers, I feel, are just like, hey, your kid can't focus. He's possibly a distraction. Get him on meds so he calms down and he's not a distraction anymore. Well, I'm just like from a teaching standpoint, I know it's extremely hard to be a teacher.
Right.
I think teachers are underpaid. I think teachers have to deal with a lot already because of like rules and regulation restrictions that are put in by government that is not teachers, right?
Right.
But at some point, like, isn't it your job to deal with this too? Isn't this what you signed up for as well,
Right.
to
Right.
handle some of this? And
Right.
so when things don't go perfect, it's like all of a sudden, boom, let's blame it on the kid, and then also now go, he needs to be on medication. And
Right.
I'm sitting here having a conversation with a pharmacist about Like, this is how far we've gone. I've got the medication downstairs in my kitchen. And I had a conversation with the pharmacist yesterday, and he's like, this medication will cause, he's like, very high likelihood it's going to cause dry eyes, dry mouth. He will have diarrhea for X number of weeks. He's going to be like this, and this. Or you could get this medication and the side effects are this, and this. High blood pressure, heart rate is increases, all these things. And I'm like, wait a second. What the hell am I doing here? Like, I almost
Mm-hmm.
got duped into giving my
Mm-hmm.
kid an antidepressant at 10
Right.
because he is high energy. And I'm
Right.
looking at this and I go, that to me is a problem. And I don't want to give my kid this medicine.
Yep.
So that's it. Like, this is a little like a real life conversation about what the real life is in this world. You know, I definitely do want to get to deer hunting here, but it's it's just very strange how easy doctors, and my doctor did a 30-minute, or his doctor did a 30-minute consultation with him, and the outcome without even thinking about it was he needs to, I would suggest he goes on these meds. I'm like,
Right.
how could you do that? I know the teachers are saying he's not rowdy. He
Right.
just like, he stands up, he moves around a little bit, he shifts, he can't focus, birds out the window, he looks out the window. Like, I get it, dude. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I don't think medication is always the answer. He's
I
not the
don't
kid
need.
who I don't think he's the kid he needs it.
Yeah, I don't either because I think there comes a point too where some of it, he'll definitely grow out of. Some of it is just part of his
Mhm.
character. That's just who he is.
Yeah.
I hate the fact that we, like you're saying, we default to medicine so quickly,
Yeah.
and the side effects of
Yeah.
this medication and stuff that we're taking. I don't know. It's about like a lot of the foods that we eat. It's garbage,
Oh,
and
yeah.
what it's
Yeah.
doing to us later in life. It's a terrible outcome, but. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways, I got kind of on a tangent there, and
Yeah.
that's kind of what I've been doing for the last couple weeks, and well, for
Yeah.
most of winter, and these classrooms are full of a lot of stuff, and
Yeah.
that's what they're doing. They're doing the same thing as putting a label on them, and
Yeah.
it's just sad because I don't remember that. Like I know I had a lot of energy and my
Mhm.
attention span is pretty much the same as what it was then.
Right.
I've learned to grow out of some of it. And I mean it's like having patience, that
Mhm.
comes with time and age. So
Yeah. Yeah, dude, I
anyways,
don't know, man. I'm just trying to like, there's a lot of stress between my wife's medical condition, and my boy. Basically, and so I saw his report card, and his report card, it's not A, B's, and C's like it used to. It's like E is for exceptional, M is meeting, there's approaching, and then beginning. Well, if you were to allocate, translate that into his report card, he'd be getting like C's in some things, C's and D's
mhm,
in some things.
mhm,
And I look back at mine and I'm like, I got C's and D's and B's. I never got A's. I got some B's, but mostly C's, some D's in school. And now I am the owner of a successful podcast network. You know what
right.
I mean?
Y-
And
y-
you are the owner of a landscaping business who in the wintertime has the ability to be a substitute teacher. So you're telling me that this kid, in order to fit into society, needs medication? Fuck that. Like, I'm sorry.
No, dude.
I
Yeah.
don't
I
know.
mean, we talk about this all the time. Obviously, having 5 kids right now, but the projection for them and stuff, and like their expectations, and my wife and I with our exes, we kind of see differently.
Yeah.
Obviously, we would love to see them go on and go to college and whatever. And I'll be honest with you though, like Dan, I went to college, I played baseball, and I didn't even finish college because I
Mhm.
realized that I needed to go to work and I needed to make money and I don't regret a minute of it other than like my winter times, like I could probably make more money if I had a degree. but I do what
Yeah.
I do what I enjoy. It gives me the flexibility to work with my kids, play with my kids, go to their events. It also gives me the flexibility to deer hunt, which is why we're
Yeah.
on here. But
Yep.
it's strange because so many people push that college, and then so many people don't even use the college, and
Oh,
that's a
100%.
that's a frustrating part for me because the whole vocational school, whether it's trades or plumbing or electrical or all that stuff's kind of gone by the wayside, and we
Oh,
don't
yeah.
even teach a lot of that stuff in the classrooms anymore
Mhm.
going into the
Mhm.
workforce. So
Dude, I think when my boy hits high school and he can start taking the construction classes, the auto body repair classes, the things like that, I honestly think he's going to excel better in that when he can start using his hands to grind metal or cut a piece of wood or like all of that stuff. Like I really
yeah,
do feel
yeah.
once he gets out of the classroom into like a hands-on learning thing, he's going to excel. And the other thing real quick is, and then we should probably shut up, but like my boy already says he doesn't want to go to college and he's 10, right? He wants to be a plumber or an electrician or my youngest one wants to be a firefighter. Well, I think certain firefighters have to get EMT training potentially, but you can go to a class and learn all that stuff. You don't have to go to
Yep,
college. And so
yep.
you can go to like a trade school or there's another word for it, evocational or something like I don't know what that
Yeah,
word is.
yeah, vocational school or
Yeah,
evocational
vocational
school,
school.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or be an apprentice for someone for a handful of years. You
right,
don't need to go to college. And
right.
so now my daughter on the other end, she's like, I think I might want to be an attorney or a doctor. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Right.
Mhm.
You got to do what you got to do. But, um, but she's
It's
going to need to go to college for that.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the thing for me, I look back at all the things that I've done. It's just being well rounded and
Uh-huh.
being able to adjust to all the different situations that life's thrown my way. I mean, I spend a
Yeah.
lot of time with the girls in the kitchen and teaching them how to make certain dinners or baking certain things or desserts or whatever.
Yep.
I do
Yep.
that, and that translates into hunting and stuff. And like with my son, he loves football. That's his thing, and I
Yep.
try to like voice reality of like, well, we're probably not going to go to this level unless you put a lot more work in, so find something with that you can enjoy. And he's like, Dad, I love podcasts. I love listening
Hmm.
to stats and everything. And it's funny because he's like, he was at his mom's and he says, Dad, I found your podcast on Spotify and I listened to you guys. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So we can translate that right into deer hunting here. And
Yeah.
what are you seeing as far as deer? You showed me a picture earlier. Your son
Yeah.
found a shed.
Dude. So here's rule number, or first things first. All of my batteries and all of my cell cams are dead. So I don't know shit about what's going on other than driving down the road. Okay. With
Yep.
that
Yep.
said, Um, so because of the medical thing that we went through this weekend, my mom picked up the boys and took them back to their house, which is out in the country, right? And so my stepdad took my oldest boy on a drive around one of his friends' farms, like through all like the picked corn. It's frozen, it's frozen, and so you can pretty much go anywhere you want. And they went on a shed hunt, and well, what it was so cold, but the shed hunt was just driving around from the car. And my son goes, grandpa, stop, 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 what's that? He goes, get out of the car and go check and see. Gets out of the truck, runs up to this tree. Sure enough, it's a shed antler. And
Cool.
so I'm gonna pull it up real quick. I think I should have left it, but
Yeah.
it's a 4-point side, and it is broken on the main beam. So I don't know. It looks like it almost got hit with a plow type of deal.
Mhm.
But it's a decent shed. I would say it would go to maybe 110 inch 8-pointer maybe.
Yeah.
Uh, it's not a huge antler, but it's got some character. Like the brow time's pretty decent. The G2's pretty decent. I mean, based off of this picture, but you can see that the G3 in the
Yep.
G or in the main beam point is broken off. So I don't
Yep.
know if it is broken off because of um it's broken off because of the a plow hit it or it got hit by a car, but I don't, based off of how it broke, I don't see it breaking off because of like, like fighting. It doesn't look like
Yeah.
that kind of a break, really. And so
Yeah.
it looks like it had just been hit by something real hard, which, anyway, he found a shed. He was jacked about it. And it's been there. I'm going to guess it's a 2 year old shed or a 1 year. It's been over, it's not fresh is what I'm getting at. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
he was happy to find it. And that kind of brings us to the time of year that we're in, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
W-
the winter time. It's the shed season. Things are going in that direction.
let's do our commercial real quick for Code
Oh,
Blue
yep.
Scents.
Yep. Do
Um,
that.
Clean some house here.
Yep.
So Code Blue Scents, guys. It's kind of where we're heading in this time of year with cameras dying, batteries and stuff like that. And me personally, I went out a couple weeks ago, refreshed batteries and everything, and I actually refreshed some of my ropes with Code
Mm-hmm.
Blue Scents. Um, and I think I
Rope a
pretty
dope.
much do,
Yep.
yeah, the rope a dope system, and I pretty much use that throughout the year. And I was going to ask you that once we got into our topic here. For me, I use their system pretty much top to bottom now,
Mm-hmm.
and it started a few years ago with the rope a dope system, and how much that intrigued me with the amount of deer that would actually regularly visit it.
Mm-hmm.
And now I use their detergents, I use their sprays, even some of they got like the foaming soap,
Mm-hmm.
if you get to the truck and your hands are dirty or whatever, and they got the wipes. They have a whole line of stuff, really, if you want to get into it. And they got bundle
Yeah.
kits now too. So go to
Yeah.
codebluesense.com.
Yep. And then enter the discount code NF or no, HTH20 for 20% off. And that's going to get you a 20% discount on some really good stuff there. So,
Yeah.
yes, sir.
So, the time of year. So,
Yeah.
like I was just saying with the rope a dope kits and stuff like that, I used to be the type that I would pull my cameras. This
Uh-huh.
would be the time that I would pull cameras, I would pull stands down, and I would kind of just let everything sit for a bit, and then I would transition into shed hunting and preparation for different stand sites, maybe doing some food plot work when the weather allows it.
Yeah.
But right now, I've kind of the last couple years I've really liked, using these cameras with these ropes and these
Mm-hmm.
scrapes and everything, and putting all that together. And it kind of leads me to with the shed hunting. I used to go out right away, soon as season was over, and
Yep.
I would try to, hit the woods and try to find some sheds early because there's sheds out there. And I mean,
Yeah.
if you think they're not out there, you're wrong. But one thing I noticed is just like hunting itself, you're pressuring the woods and you're kicking
Mm-hmm.
deer off, and it does take them a while. And if you're spending any time right now, I mean, here in the Midwest, we have very, very minimal snow cover at all. Some of the lower ditches and stuff, we've got snow. But
Mm-hmm.
last night, I picked up the kids from basketball and we took the back roads home, and there was tons of deer out. But
Yeah.
the one thing, like I told the kids, is deer out everywhere in all sorts of different directions. So there's no certain food source that they're going to every night. They're just kind of sporadic. And the same thing this morning. We took the back roads into school, and there's a couple herds here and there, but they're not like coming from this bedding to this food. So
Yeah.
right now, if you're shed hunting something, odds are you're probably going to bump some deer, and odds are it's going to take you that much longer to find sheds. So being that it's winter time, what I've kind of noticed is if we do see snow in the forecast, maybe wait for that snow to hit, and then I'll start looking on fresh trails. I'll start looking for
Yep.
fresh beds. I mean, a few years ago, found my biggest set. I think it was like February 3rd or 4th that year,
Right.
and I like I said, there's sheds on the ground, but is that worth the time right now?
Right. Yeah. It's it's weird. Like I don't like this winter has been cold, but for us, but how do I put this? The South right now, further south, they got a ton more snow, so they kind of got what we got a handful of weeks ago. Like, when did that big snow? Early January. The bigger
Yeah,
snowstorm came through, or was that late December?
it was in
Um,
December that we had,
yeah,
and we
yeah,
got like
that came
10,
through
12
us.
inches or something. Yeah.
Yeah, that one. And then a couple weeks later, we got another 4 inches and stuff like that. It would have been awesome if that stayed as far as shed hunting is concerned, or that came in like right now. If that came right now, that'd be awesome.
Right.
But uh, maybe in the South, Missouri through Tennessee, North Carolina even had a ton of snow right now. So all through that avenue, I'm sure deer are piling up in areas. Almost perfect timing for a guy to go out and find pockets of deer and pockets of sheds. Now, where we're at, deer are all over the place, right?
Mm,
I see them still in big like groups, but
yeah.
it's not like they're hitting one cornfield. It's just doe group here, there's a doe group here. It's not like 50 deer in one field like what
Right.
tends to happen if there's 4 inches, 5 inches of snow on the ground right now.
Yeah.
And the best shed hunting seasons that I've ever had have been when late February we've gotten a massive snowstorm, and for the last week of February and the first weeks coming into March, there's been snow on the ground, a really cold hard freeze, and then a fast thaw, and these deer are going and going and going. It lays all of the grass down. The sheds just stand out, right? You
Hmm.
can find them under cedar trees. You can find them, in uh, cold season grasses. You can find them on buffer strips, the edge of all that. And so that's where I've found a lot of sheds throughout the course of my life. And those are the days where, I don't know, it was a handful of years ago. I think I found 15 sheds in 45 minutes just walking buffer strips of this 80-acre cornfield. And
Yeah.
they were there, dude. They were just there. And it was good, man. It was a good day
Yeah.
because of the conditions.
Yeah, I've my rule of thumb has always been like by about March 15th, most of the deer in my areas have already dropped their antlers. And
Right.
there's the occasional ones that it'll take up till middle of April, but it's
Yep.
for me right now, I'm looking at it like there's not much to say that the deer are going to feed in X. So when I'm driving down the road, it's kind of like how your son
Yeah.
found his. I mean, this is
Yep.
when you're going to find them standing out in the middle of a field or in a ditch, the
Mm-hmm.
roadside sheds. So there's not a whole lot for me of purpose to go out and just wander my properties right
Right.
now. I might as well stack the
Yeah.
odds and wait until most of the deer have dropped because if I keep the pressure off, hopefully the deer stick around. So
Yeah. I I want to go. I'm going to take my son shed hunting and maybe one of his buddies shed hunting in March before my knee surgery. So I have my knee surgery on March 25th, and then I have to travel for work March 11th, and then there's like a whole bunch. There's not a whole bunch of other stuff I have to do in March other than just do my regular job. But I think what I'm going to try to do is in a week or so do a real quick trip to refresh a handful of trail cameras and dump a shit ton of corn out in some of these areas, and then try to get an idea of what's kind of going on the farms, what deer are hanging around, maybe get them on a bed to food pattern that leads you know,
yep,
right to the
yep.
the pinch points that or to the corn, and then watch them drop right in the area. And so I'm hoping that I can get an idea of when they're dropping to go out there for the best possible, uh, you know buy a ton of corn, and like a literal ton of corn, put it in my truck, and then go and dump it. And then that's going to tell me, hey, get out there and go look for horns.
Yeah, so right now your strategy, you're coming out of basically like rut timing with your
Mm-hmm.
cameras, right? So, I mean,
Right.
your cameras are basically in rut positions where you'd have them,
Right.
and so then now you're gonna move them and adjust them according to where you're putting food or whatever, corn.
Yeah, kind of. I know there's a couple that are in right on some open fields. It's like facing into a pinch point. That's great for rut, but I don't think
Yep.
I'm going to have to move it. I think what I'll do is I'll scatter corn all over the place and then
Mhm.
head down and go do that. So,
Yeah.
um, hell, maybe I'll even do it this weekend if my wife's feeling better. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, it's supposed to warm up here pretty decent towards the end of the week, and then next week looks, I mean, we're gonna be hitting mid-40s, it looks like, maybe
40s.
by
Yeah, I
Tuesday.
saw
Yeah.
that. That's
Yeah. Yeah.
crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
So
the issue then becomes, can I get back into the places if the mud, because it's
right,
the thaw and the mud and stuff like that. So
right,
yeah.
right. Yeah, that's the only thing, like, this time of year, if we don't have snow cover, it kinda limits your shed hunting and stuff to some degree, because you can
Yeah.
use the snow as a beneficial, that's a trail, there's a bed, and you
Yeah.
can put all those things together, bed to food, but then snow becomes an issue as far as, like, for me, if we have 8, 10 inches of snow, some of these properties I can't get into, and then I gotta park out, on the roadway, or I gotta park in a neighbor's entrance or something like that. But then now, and the other flip side of things is, if we don't have the snow, we end up having the mud because we have the warmer
Mhm.
temperatures. So
Yeah.
then that becomes a problem or an issue too. So
Yeah.
I don't know. You pick and choose your times. I mean, as far as shed hunting goes, I mean, some of the rules are pretty simple. I try to go on overcast days, drizzly days, where the sun's not full glow, and
Hmm.
it's not real bright that way. I try to use the gloomier days to shed hunt
Yeah.
and be comfortable. I don't
Yeah.
want to be out there in all thick winter gear either. I want to be able
Yeah.
to walk for several hours if I go.
Yeah. So the other thing I have to try to figure out too is, okay, knee surgery's coming up. And I've told you this, while I'm there, I'm going to try to move some tree
Yeah.
stands too into some positions where I'm going to be able to just walk into the property and hunt these pinch points. Don't get me wrong, I'm still going to need to do a lot of like run and gun on some micro adjusting stands, or maybe a run and gun into, oh, there I saw a buck coming out of this little thicket 2 days in a row or whatever. I'm going to get into that position, things like that. And
Hmm.
so I'm trying to I'm trying to make these one trips to do some habitat management, to do some tree stand moving, to do some. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to do a 2-day trip, and I'm going to spend a night. There's a small town with a small hotel, and I'm going to take my boy there. You know, get him whatever he wants from Casey's. Like donuts and chocolate milk,
Yeah.
and then take him out for a cheeseburger. Dude, my boy loves Casey's cheeseburgers. Like he's like, Dad, can we
Really?
get a Casey's? Yeah. Dad, can we get a
A
Casey's
Casey's
cheeseburger?
cheeseburger.
Casey's cheeseburger. He loves Casey's cheeseburgers,
Hmm.
man. And so I'm like, yeah, dude, I'll get you a Casey's cheeseburger. Anyway, what
Yeah.
I'm getting at is like, I'm going to make a trip, 2-day trip, and maybe do, we'll do some shed hunting. And if I bring his buddy, who his parents will let me take him with, we spend the night, they can go wherever they want on the farm and mess
Hmm.
around and run around and go look for sheds while I'm doing some chainsawing and while I'm moving tree stands. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
No,
Yeah.
I think this time of year is kind of you can find yourself either really enjoying it by, getting out there shed hunting, moving cameras, doing some timber
Hmm.
managing, or moving tree stands, taking them down. But
Yeah.
you can also do some of the other things, and it just had me thinking when we were talking there, um, about some of the different shows that, like, here's the Iowa Deer Classic, that's coming up
Yes.
in March.
Yes.
There's a lot of that kind of stuff that you can still stay engaged into your hobby,
Hmm.
and not spend a ton of money. I mean, if you're the type of guy that just wants to window shop, these things are fun to go to. The kids love them too. I've taken my kids to different shows. Man, since they were born, we've done it. We've done all the turkey banquets. We've done pheasant banquets. We go to the Iowa Deer Classic, the Wisconsin Deer Classic, the Illinois. We've done all of them at some point or
Yep.
another. And my point of it is like, if you want to learn about different things that are going on, a lot of these places like this, like the DNR will be there. If you have questions, you can ask stuff like that. And it leads to keeping you engaged in it. I know there's a Whitetail Properties has like a shed rally, every year, and it's kind of fun to stay in it. And then we transition into that early part of spring, so you can do deer hunting 12 months of the year. It's not just a 2 to 3 month window. So
Yeah.
for me, uh, I do those things. The other thing that I used to do a lot of too is, go to your local archery club, and a lot of them have 3D shoots going on, and you can
Yep.
join a league. And then there's outdoor shoots that start in March. There's a lot of indoor shoots that are going on right now. So support some of those things. We've talked about it in the past. Like, what organizations do you want to support? Well, I'll tell you, one of the biggest things for me is I love having, or loved, I should say, a local archery shop.
Hmm.
Because if there was anything I ever needed, and if I it needed something fixed, I was going to go there. And they've kind of fallen somewhat by the wayside as far as with social media having, like, you got Facebook Marketplace and all those things where a lot of stuff is just bought online. uh it's sad to see the archery clubs closing, the archery stores
Yep.
closing, so to keep us involved, I think that's where you could put some of your money too. And that's just a personal opinion, but it helps grow
Yeah.
the sport as well.
100%. And it just keeps everybody in it it keeps everybody in it all year round. If you're the kind of person who loves archery, like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't see how I could fit in I would have to stop coaching, but like, I don't see how I could fit in an archery club or being
Yeah.
part of a weekly shoot. In 3 years, that's going to change
Yeah.
when most of my kids are out of daddy coach and into school coach,
Right.
then I'm going
Right.
to be able to open up a lot and be able to help them get, then I'm going to be able to get out more and hunt more and do all these things more because number one, they're old enough they're going to be driving, they're going to be, um, less dependent on mommy and daddy. And
Mhm.
then that's when I can get back into a lot of this stuff. So,
Yeah, yeah, and well, we had the same discussion. I think it was like 3 weeks ago. The local
mhm,
archery club had a league start up, and
yep,
I debated it, and she's like, "Yeah, just do it. Just do it. You need to do it.
yeah,
Do something for you." And I'm like,
yeah,
I don't have time. We're running 5 kids around, and then just to sit and eat supper and then have 10 minutes with my wife at the end of the day. I don't have time to join archery league right now. It's almost,
right,
it's almost a joke. It's almost laughable
right,
to some extent, but we'll definitely make sure that we get to some of their events and some of their shoots that they have, because
hmm
the girls and my son, they like to shoot too. And then we'll, t- have a newborn here too, to where we might be doing a lot of hiking towards the end of summer with
hmm
her in the backpack or her in the front. And so we'll see how that
yep,
goes too.
absolutely, absolutely, dude. All right, so kind of recap to get us into a certain point of this is we've talked about the shed hunting being an option. We talked about getting out there and shooting an archery league, getting in an archery league. The other thing I want to talk about that is where I personally have seen the biggest growth in my success is late season scouting. Okay.
100%.
100%. And you can do that with shed hunting.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
the biggest growth that I've seen as far as strategy, tactics, understanding deer behavior, finding out where deer live, being able to observe um, old sign like rubs and scrapes from the past, breeding season. And this isn't just a Midwest thing. This is Florida to Saskatchewan thing. Like,
Right.
if you're doing this, you're going to be better at this. And so, yes, you can pair it with deer hunting or, excuse me, shed hunting. But I got out there, man. I found trails. I started walking terrain. I slowed down. I was looking not only at the terrain at deer level when there's no vegetation on the on the trees and bushes. You can see through the timber, and you can see how the land curves in one direction. You can follow trails. You can see where trails intersect. All of that stuff plays a huge role. And when I was able to do that and pair it with shed hunting, man, I learned so much about the properties that that I had access to hunt, which just put me closer to deer. And so that's a very long way from like us podcasters, we always say things the long way,
Yeah.
when in all reality is late season, postseason scouting, winter scouting is hands down for me where I took the biggest jump to that. So now what I'm going to do is, we know that now that you
Right.
agree that
Yeah.
winter scouting is the best. Tell me the details. What, when you go out and you're stepping into the woods in the wintertime, what are you looking for?
If this is my first year, I'm gonna pretend that I'm a rookie and I'm learning about hunting for the first time,
Yeah.
and I got permission on a 100-acre piece.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna take a notebook with me, and I'm gonna take my phone with me so I can have my camera. I'm gonna take some mapping device with me,
Like
and I'm gonna walk.
Onyx or Hunt
Yeah.
Stand, or yeah,
Yep.
something like that. Yep.
Yep, and I'm gonna hopefully I'm gonna choose a day when there's minimal or no snow, so that
Yep.
way I can I don't want to say speed walk it, but I want to cover as much ground as I can,
Right.
but I also want to see as much sign as I can. So I'm gonna look for scrapes. I'm gonna look
Yep.
for rubs, and then one correlation I was thinking, when we talk about where they bed and everything, one thing about shed hunting that I've learned personally is a lot of times I'll find sheds on my properties that I did not see that deer in the fall.
Yeah.
And that means to me that that deer only spends part of its time on my property during the hunting season,
Mm-hmm.
if at all.
Right.
And it could be that September switch. So I'll look for those things. I'll look for water sources. I'll look for food sources. I'll look for trees that I can hang in or potential ambush sites with a ground blind. And depending on if I'm hunting with a gun or a bow,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a lot that right now you can take in. So I'm gonna start, and I'm gonna look at what are my access points.
Yeah.
If this property is just 100-acre square, can I access from one side or multiple sides? And what wind direction is the best wind direction to access from? And just slowly pick away at it and spend a day on a property if I can, and get through every detail of it.
Yeah.
Learn the terrain of it. Learn where you feel like deer are coming off of the neighbors, or maybe they're coming from yours to the neighbors. Maybe this is a solid block of timber. Maybe this is the bedding site for the deer.
Mm-hmm.
So all properties are different. But if I'm a first year guy and I have an opportunity to get on a new piece of property right now, I'm gonna walk in and I'm gonna like shopping for a new
Mm-hmm.
car, say.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna try to find the perfect stand site. I'm gonna look for big tracks. I'm gonna look for rubs and scrapes, and I'm gonna do a shed hunt also. So my
Mm-hmm.
head is 100 mile an hour, and it's probably why it works out for me because I can't. My attention span's gone, but
Right.
um, that's what I would do, and it's
Yeah.
pretty. It's to me, it's a pretty simple approach to something that can be very beneficial come fall.
Right. Here's what I would add on top of that is, if you have access to a big farm, let's just say 100 acres or bigger, because I'm guessing a lot of people don't have access to 100-acre farms,
Right.
right? I'm lucky because I live in a lower populated state and I have access to multiple farms. And, like, I'm just going to say, I have access to roughly 700 acres. And now, not all of it's huntable, right? You can skip over the big cornfields, but it's good to know the terrain features within the cornfield, where the low spots, and that's going to allow deer to travel in the low spots, identify that. But what I would do, especially if you're trying to schedule time to go and scout and look at that, the thing that I have found where I would get lost in scouting, especially in the winter, the winter scouting, is that I would try to cover 100 acres in an afternoon.
Yeah.
and you're missing some. Unfortunately, you're missing something.
Yeah.
So what I would do is I would take that, I would divide it in half. Now, back then I had a lot more time than I do now, and I would say, okay, I'm going to just scrub 40 of it, or I'm
Mhm.
going to scrub, uh, you know, maybe after work, I'm going to scrub 20 of it. And then I'll come back tomorrow after work. I'll scrub another 20 of it and break it down. And that way it slows you down. That way you're not looking for, I mean, because if you're trying to scrub 100+ acres in a day, it just seems, I feel like I felt like I was missing something. But when I came in, I spent less time on less acres. I was coming away with something, because we've all been in that scenario. And I get this way with shed hunting, where, have you ever been really into shed hunting? You step out of the truck and you're like, I'm really detailed, looking for sheds, looking for sheds, looking for sheds, and you get to the end of the property and then you turn around and now you got to hump your way all the way back to the truck. And by the time you get back to the truck, you realize, I'm not even looking for sheds. I'm just trying to get back to the truck,
Well,
because your legs are so tired. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
I
Yeah.
was gonna say that, but I was also gonna throw that in as a pointer that, so I said, take 100 acres and break it down in a day, and it's virtually impossible. But the one thing I would say is, maybe split it in half, like you were saying. But the one thing with shed hunting that I've learned is you're gonna walk one direction. Don't be afraid to turn around and walk that direction back,
Same direction
because
back. Yeah.
the same direction, same area back, because there are so many things that you are going to miss: a rub on a backside, a scrape on the other side of a tree, or a shed laying in
Yep.
an area that you couldn't see going one way.
Yep.
So it is very, very critical to maybe probably slow it down a little bit from where I was at. I try to approach it with, I got limited time,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna cover as much as I can, and still to this day, that's what I have to do. That not much has changed there. I wish I
Yeah.
could dedicate more time to it, to break the, say it's a 100-acre piece. I want to break it down into 25, acre segments, and I can't do it. But
Yeah.
that'd be the ideal thing. I mean, if you're just starting out, I mean, that'd be awesome if you could do that. Cover that
Yeah.
25 acres and document it, write it down, take
Yep.
pictures, and
Yep.
put it all together. And I can guarantee you're going to have so much more success scouting this time of year than any point of the year. Once the green up starts and once trees get leaves on them, it's so much harder to identify certain food sources. Certain
Yep.
trees, are growing in together, and you might miss that one oak tree that might have acorns on it, because it's loaded with vines, or it's loaded with other things around it. So
Yep.
yeah, to me this is a great time to get out and do that. But
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so the other thing that I kind of want to mention here real quick is, going back to shed hunting. Not all deer drop their antlers at the same time.
no.
So I have in the past walked mid-February. I would say, today's February 4th when we are recording this. I would then go 3 weeks from now and probably walk it again, like the first week of March, second week of March. And then when I was really seriously shed hunting, going, putting like a lot of miles in throughout the shed season, I would walk properties 2, potentially 3 times in the course of, especially if it had standing corn or a cornfield or something like that, that would kind of, and it was an easy walk back to a ridge point where there was bedding. I would just get out of the truck and walk that like 4 or 5 times, that scenario. But there's properties that I would walk 2, 3 times throughout the course of a year, and that's when I was finding my most shed antlers throughout
Yeah.
throughout that time frame.
Do you think that, I mean, obviously the winter months can take a toll on a deer. Do you think with their nutrition or an injury that they're going to drop sooner?
Oh, of course. I
Yeah.
mean, especially with extremely cold weather. I mean, we had 2 weeks in a row of
Brutal.
zero, like +12 to -12, I
Yeah.
believe. And then you add in the wind chill on certain things. They're in this area, I believe they're going to drop earlier this year.
Yeah.
Or if not, some of the bigger antlered deer are dropped. And then 100%, um, 100% on injuries. I
Yeah.
feel like if a deer is injured, they're going to drop earlier That's what I've seen over the course of running trail cameras for 15 years. I've seen that. I've also seen where there is, so there is like a food source kind of runs out. Let's say a farmer plants corn and it's specifically for deer, and they're coming. Even the weather doesn't necessarily dictate it because they have a food source, right? So
Mhm.
they're surviving. But then what happens is, let's say every kernel of that corn gets consumed over a month or so, and then there's a lot of snow on the ground. A big weather event happens. That's an ideal time to get out and go look for sheds. I feel
Right.
like for the most part, I know. I think I know where you're kind of leading to this, and that would be: should you pressure a deer herd this time of year because they're struggling with that? Man, I don't see a problem with pushing deer herds because they're getting pushed by coyotes, they're
Yeah.
getting bumped by other factors that are not human, and they're up and moving around. Like, I don't know how many times you see through your trail cameras where no one's on your property,
And deer fly by.
and deer, like, their deer tags, like deer tails are up and they're running. It's probably a coyote or
Yeah.
a bobcat or a tractor in a different field, and they just one doe spooked and now they all spooked and then they're gone.
Yep.
And so that happens all year round.
Yep. Yep. Oh,
Yeah.
I had that yesterday. I had multiple
Yeah.
coyotes on there, and I had a herd of deer that were sprinting out across the field.
Yeah.
No, my main reason for bringing that up was talking about how many times you access your property right now during the off season. How critical do you think it is as far as pressure? Do you think pressure it plays as big of a role right now as it does during the hunting season? If your end goal right now is to find sheds, that
Hmm.
means you need deer on your property. So is your
Right.
pressure gonna equal the same as, like, during the hunting season when you're after your big buck? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I think now pressure's way more important, like, to think about. If your goal is finding shed and there's deer on your property, you go in and looking for them, you're going to bump them, and then they're going to run onto a different farm and they're going to chill there for a couple days. Yeah, I think they'll come back because that's where they feel
Yeah,
comfortable. But then there's the chance that they drop their shed on another. That's why I like to monitor with trail cameras,
right.
and bring the food source, the concentrated. So in Iowa, I am not allowed to hunt over bait or mineral. But once the season's over, I can dump as much corn as I want to feed them, to get them in front of the trail cameras. To, a lot of guys say, well, I'm just helping them get through the winter. Whatever, say
Mm,
whatever you want. But
yeah.
most of that is I'm trying to get them to drop antlers on my
Right,
farm.
right.
Right.
Why wouldn't you?
Exactly. So I wouldn't be putting cameras or jumping into the bedding area if I see a big buck lose an antler. Well, then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go walk the fields to see. I'm not going to go in there and look for them unless it's like a substantial buck that I feel,
Yeah,
you know what I mean, is there.
yeah, yeah,
But at the same
yeah,
time, I would also, I would also give it time until enough of the deer herd has dropped. Usually it's probably for me 50%. And then I'll go, by the time I get out there, make the decision, go out there. Maybe it's a little more. I'll hopefully run into some sheds. But
yeah.
last year and this year so far, the deer are so spread out that it's like finding a needle in a haystack.
Mhm.
It's not like back in the day when I also less time, right? So
Right,
all
right.
those things kind of add up to not finding sheds.
Yeah, that's that to finding time to find the sheds is
Yep.
is probably harder than actually finding the shed, just
Yep.
because of experience and knowing where they're at. I find myself on these properties year in and year out, generally about the same time, and I
Uh-huh.
generally walk the same areas first. I kind of know where deer are
Yep.
going to congregate. But yeah, I was just wondering how critical that is. With pressure right now,
Yep.
to me, with deer being spread out as much as they are, I don't know that my pressure is as important as if there was a lot of snow on the ground and I know they were
Right.
bedding there.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so the other thing that I know that I'm going to do when I'm out there, I talked a little bit about the habitat improvement. I talked a little bit about the trail cameras and dumping some corn and moving tree stands. But the other thing, if your state allows you to put a mineral block on the property, so I have in Iowa, I am able to put mineral out, but I can't hunt over top of it, right? So I always used to put the mineral out in I would say June or maybe even July, and basically use it as an attractant to get them to come because they have a mineral deficiency this time of year, which now they're looking for
Yeah,
salt and minerals to consume to help their minerals get back up in their body. Like salt is, and basically that's what it is. Like salt licks are very
yeah,
uh, they're coming to cattle minerals, they're coming to horse minerals. And then for me, I put them out on the tip of this finger with no trees nearby to that I could set in order to get deer to come visit that. Visit that, I pair it with a trail camera, and so I talked to a very predominant deer breeder in Iowa who is not only a deer breeder, but he's really good at hunting. And he told me that if you're putting your mineral out in, let's say, May and later, April and later, then it's already too late for the benefit of it, right? To
yeah,
get the benefit of it.
right,
Because basically, if you're going to use mineral and you're going to use it to actually benefit the deer herd, then you need to have it out right now when their shed antlers are dropping because the second that their antlers drop, that's when they start. I mean, they're doing it now, but the second that their antlers drop, their new antlers start growing, and actually, the new antler growth helps pop the the old antlers
pedicle,
off
yep,
at some points.
yep,
And so if you're going to use the excuse, well, I'm putting mineral out to try to benefit the deer herd, that needs to be done right now. You need to
yeah,
put it out right now. And then as it will help their bodies, the mineral gets in their bodies, and then it could potentially help their antler growth as well. And then it
yeah,
also helps the mothers get prepared for the spring when they're dropping fawns in April and May. So if you want to actually help the deer herd through mineral and through feeding, and again, make sure you check your rules and regulations in your state. Do it now. Get it out
yeah,
now, and that's gonna basically just getting longer. I will say this: the southern guys know this, and anybody that baits can have a bait state. It's going to get expensive to do that kind
mhm,
of stuff. And if you ask a wildlife biologist, they're going to tell you they have everything they need out in the wild. You don't
right,
need you if there's some bigger issues happening, if your deer herd is struggling in the wintertime, um like obviously massive amounts of bad weather will impact deer. That happens every year throughout the country. But if you're having to feed your deer, especially in like the Midwest, then
yeah.
there is a habitat problem and not a a winter problem at that point.
Yeah, yeah, and I was just gonna tap in on check your rules and regulations because if your local farm store sells it, doesn't mean that that's legal
Does
in your
not
state.
mean
No,
100%.
no, no. So
100%.
just be checking all your rules and regulations. And while we're talking about shed hunting, if you live in a Western state, some of the states have rules on when you can actually shed hunt too.
Hmm.
So
Oh,
keep
100%.
that in mind.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
So
That's a fact. And I've heard whispers that certain Midwestern states might be, I don't know enough of information, but I heard whispers that certain states are going to have a shed hunting season,
yeah,
which
cost
blows
you.
my mind. How are you going to stop people from going on their own property to look for shed antlers?
Dude, I don't know, but
Yeah.
this goes back to like last week and the week before, talking
Yeah.
about all the state stuff,
Yeah.
anywhere they can get a dime out of you. I mean, they're
Yeah.
going to. So yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, I think they do charge in some other states out west, don't they?
Well, I don't know if they charge, but they
But there's
have like,
seasons.
but there's seasons. Yes. So like, have
Yeah.
you ever seen there's elk that winter in certain areas on public land. And
Yep.
then as like exactly on noon on this day, there's 17 dudes on horseback, and they all just like haul ass out there to go look
Yep.
for all these sheds because,
So
but at the same time, I can go and hike on these same properties and just say I'm hiking or ride a four
yeah.
wheeler or go snowmobiling, and it's perfectly legal. But if
Yeah.
the second I go out there and I'm looking for sheds, well, then it becomes illegal. So
Well,
and they say that the reason for that shed season is because they don't want to pressure the elk herd. So they're
mhm,
saying that the shed hunters are pressuring the animals, but
right.
the hikers, the snowmobilers, and the ATV people are not.
Right.
So
Well, and then
it's
that goes
funny.
as yeah, no, it's hilarious because it goes the same as like all this state ground here in Illinois. Not all of it you can shed hunt,
Yeah,
so you do definitely have to check your rules and regulations as far as what is open to shed hunting and what is not. Because if you get caught walking out of a park with a shed in your hand, I mean, that could be a whole nother story.
100%. Yep, absolutely, absolutely.
So,
Because I think in state parks in Iowa, and I did this when I was a kid. I found a decent shed in a picnic area. This was a long time ago, and I picked it up. And then as we're driving out, my dad's like, "Well, let's go stop and show the ranger what we found." And
oops.
I picked it up and I said, "Hey, look what I found." And he goes, "Oh yeah, that has to stay here.
Yeah. Yep.
That has to stay here."
Yep. It's
And
like
then he took it and he put it in like a lot of state parks have like a little conservation area where they have like snake skins and duck feathers
yeah.
and like coyotes furs on that, and then he brought it in there and he put it in there. Now everybody gets to take a look at it and see
Yeah.
it. So yeah,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah. So
There's just rules and regulations all
yep,
across the board, and
yep,
don't let it ruin you though, I
yeah,
mean, that's the thing. Don't get greedy about it and it just hey, I mean, a rule is what a rule is, try to,
yeah,
try to obey them the best you can and do all the things. If you don't know, just ask questions. I mean, that's the
yep,
biggest thing. But this time of
yep.
year, if the weather breaks and you got time, get out and
Go for a
learn as
walk.
much as you can. Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna walk out. I know here in the next week or two, just because it's gonna be time to do it,
Yep,
and it's gonna be very refreshing. Even after all these years of hunting, I'm still gonna find something that I learned different this year.
100%. Yep, absolutely. Okay, cool. Just as a recap, real quick, we talked about shed hunting today, and I think we need to get into a little bit more detail next episode about where to find sheds. Today was kind of a high level, be prepared for shed hunting season. Now's a perfect time to go scouting. And so, like, this episode is more of like a preview for shed hunting and scouting. I want to get into a little bit more detail next week about where to actually find sheds on the terrain. We talked about the time of year this week, and we talked about feeding deer or baiting or like minerals this week. We've also talked about a little bit in depth about how to scout in the
Right?
wintertime. I feel like there's more time to talk about that on the next
Yeah.
episode as well. But this is a little postseason preview where we just touched base on certain things, and as we move into the rest of February and early March, we're going to expand on that stuff. So, anything else before we shut her down?
No, I was just gonna say, don't let this be a time of boredom.
Yep.
This still can be a very beneficial time to enjoy, what we love to do with our hobby and stuff. And you can learn a ton right now. So don't get bored with it. Start researching some stuff. Maybe expand your states and try looking into a different state. Or if you're new to it, take some of the advice that we have and put it to work and
Yep.
document it. So
100%. The other thing, and this is an actual conversation that I want to get someone on who does more of it than we do, and that is trapping and shooting predators, because that has an impact not only on the turkey population, but also on the deer population, especially in the spring.
Yep.
So I want to get someone who knows more than us on here in the next couple like month or so to talk about that, because right now there's a lot of guys out there trapping and hunting for predators.
Yep. 100%.
All right. All right, everybody. Do us a huge favor and go to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you download the How to Hunt Deer podcast, and listen and give us a 5-star review. We would really appreciate it. Also, do us a huge favor and go to YouTube and locate the How to Hunt Deer YouTube channel. Again, as the cold kind of fades away, we're going to be doing a lot more videos and reels while we are out in the field doing our work, our shed hunting, our scouting, and we're going to allow you guys to tag along on that through the YouTube channel. So go check out the How to Hunt Deer YouTube channel and subscribe to it. The more subscribers we get and comment on the videos, this is the video version of this podcast is going to also be found on YouTube. Subscribe to that. The more subscribers we get, the more things that like functionality that gets unlocked. So we would appreciate that. Outside of that, be good to your neighbor, and we'll talk to you next week.